Hey guys, it's Max. How's everyone doing? Hey, I got a really good question today from a commenter. I'm trying to remember their name, but I can't right now. But I answered their question, but then I thought I'd turn it into a video. They were asking if I had any ULTY shares. You would think I owned all the shares, and I was trying to pump all the shares the way I talk about it, because I do really, the more and more I see that, I really like that fund. But no, it's not a pump and dump scheme. I have no ULTY. All right, so I said I don't have any ULTY, and the reason I don't is I don't need it. I do the same stuff, the same kind of stuff that ULTY does. More specifically, I really do more of the same kind of stuff Triple QY does. I sell a put spread when I need money, okay? Sometimes I use the SPY, sometimes I use the Qs. Whenever there's an earnings stock, I make a 1 or 2 day play on earnings. You sometimes have a YOLO component, and I always have an income component. And I've been teaching those to you guys. That's what ULTY does. That's exciting to me. It's not free money, but it's cheap money. Anyway, I told the commenter I really didn't need ULTY at this point in my life because I have enough income with my own option selling activity. But that's the number one rule on these things is not unless you need income. If you aren't retired yet, stay the hell away from these things. Why does anyone have any of these that aren't retired? And I know the reason is because you see that they return a lot and you're hoping that you can that the yield will turn into the return. And I get that. And sometimes it does. But I mean, these make a lot of sense to me as retirement investments and as allocations in the broader portfolio. I'm going to show you an example of that. But yes, don't overload it. For me to get ULTY right now, I would have to sell some growth investments. Okay. And why would I do that? Well, if I needed income, I don't need income because I sell options myself. Okay. But this is like Uber. You can outsource your option trading, or even if you don't know how to do this kind of option trading, which is extremely sophisticated, outsource it to Jay. Buy a couple hundred shares of this. Most people know how to do a covered call strategy. But Jay he's doing covered sprawl, risk reversal, calendars and stuff now. These are some very sophisticated strategies, and people aren't going to have the time or inclination to mess with these. So that's why I'm so high on this fund. But no, I don't own any. If I ever became fully incapacitated and was not able to trade, hell, I would buy ULTY because they're doing the same stuff. The same type of stuff I like to do. ULTY is my favorite strategy out there right now at this point in time. At first, it was Triple QY. Then it was SPY-T. Then it was Triple QT. Now it's ULTY. When Triple QY came out, it was the best alternative out there. It's still a damn good one. But Triple QY has some caveats that come with it. You need to realize that not all the money you can spend. You have to reinvest. Not in Defiance. That makes me so mad when people think, well, why should I have to give the money back to Defiance? No, Sylvia never said that. Jay did. I wish he would change his tune. You just have to put it in some type of investment somewhere. You have to realize that you're cashing out part of your investment. If you don't want that to happen, it doesn't have to go back in Defiance, but you have put half or 2/3 of that, dividend in a T-bill, something. It has to go back in something. Okay. But anyway, so, but with SPY-T, you didn't really have to do that anymore. Maybe save a little bit. But SPY-T, the money's pretty much yours. ULTY, now ULTY is going to deplete like a motherfucker. Don't get me wrong. We're gonna talk about that. We're going to talk about what we do about that at the end of the video. But it's a bad freaking ass fund. All right. Like I always remember, there's no bad ETFs. They just have different strategies. The information's out there. You can find an ETF that has a strategy. It's out there. Send me a message. I'll help you find one for yourself. They're out there. So my target audience has been changing over the past year. I started, I think, about a year ago. When I first got on board, my target subscriber was the retiree that didn't really understand how the covered call worked, or maybe he understood how the covered call worked, but didn't really understand how a covered call ETF was going to work. And is it going to erode to zero? And is it going to reverse split to zero and erode to nothing? Is it, So the first year was largely spent on education, on explaining what erosion was. Erosion happens to leverage funds. It's something different that is easy to confuse, though. But the name of my channel could have been Erosion Something Different. Anyway, Now, a year later, I can't help you if you still think it's a Ponzi scheme or don't understand what the erosion is and isn't. But I can help you if you want to learn how to do these trades in your own portfolio. I've been having a hard time settling on a niche for the past week or so. I think I have it. And I'm not expecting a lot of followers. I have about 3,100 of you guys now, and I'll probably top out at about 5,000. I'm going for I don't want a broad audience. I want a bunch of option bros, okay, and gals. All right. So we're going to talk a lot about how these strategies really work and what exactly Jay is betting on. But to reinforce these strategies, we're going to look at concrete examples of what Jay is doing, but how maybe I'm doing something similar in my own account. Or maybe I'll give you guys a trade that you could do in your own account. Today, I'm going to give you a Disney trade. To be honest, it's not the best looking trade. We're going to still look at it and follow it, but don't do this on your own account. This one's you could, but I don't like the risk reward on it. I'm just telling you. It's all right, but I've seen better ones. I'll find a better one for you, but we're still going to look at it, and I'll still share it with you in case you want to do it in your own account. All right. But like I say, the real reason I became an option strat affiliate is to try to reinforce these hard to grasp concepts. Okay, here's my version of Jay's Disney's trade. Then we're going to look at some retirement lab simulation stuff. So stick around. Don't give up on me here. We're just going to look real quick. All right, so here it is. Disney, you make $330 when you put this on. Disney has to drop more than 4% to mess this up, to turn this into a loser. But if it does, you have about $3,000 worth of risk. So you make $330, so you get about 10% on your risk right away in income. Okay, but then if Disney has an outlier move up and moves up, 20% or something, this trade's $3,700 winner. But if it moves down 20%, this trade's only a $2,900 loser. It has asymmetry, it has convexity, it has everything I like. Pretty nice little trade. Do it if you want to, but I just don't like 4%. I like ones where they're more like 8%. I like when you could get a little bit further away. I don't know. Anyway, but I will share it. But Jay has on this exact same trade, except his doesn't expire till the 22nd. He's gone out an extra week. I don't think that makes any sense. I'm going to quiz him about that when he gets on the show. This is the way I would do it. You don't need it to go out till next week. You make $330 for 3 days risk. Easy peasy. That's all there is to it. All right. So that's that trade. Now let's get back to the slides. We're also going to have some retirement simulator concept. I'm trying to show you what the new niche is. I'm trying to kind of demonstrate it. So we're going to have stuff like that where I show you a trade. All right. We're going to basically copy trade Jay, okay, in this wealth management shop. I think this is cool. I don't know if, you guys think it's cool, but Jay likes this station. He likes retirement, but he likes a lot of stations, but I think he likes this one because it's focused on education. I'm not going out there telling people to go buy a Lambo or whatever. I'm emphasizing like responsible type behavior, trying to anyway. So I think that's the only reason he invited me to New York. Even though my station was a lot smaller than other influencers. I just think that we have kind of an in with Jay because of our focus on education and how it really works. So I'm trying to leverage that relationship to make better content for you guys. All right. So there's the Jay trade. We already talked about that. I guess I made 2 slides on that. Okay. But so besides converting Jay's trades into small trades for retail guys, me to have fun on, we're going to have retirement simulator content. So I showed you last week how a guy with 500,000 could use high yield ETFs to help fund his retirement, right? Okay, in today's retirement simulator episode, I'm going to show you how you would allocate something like ULTY. Now it's high powered. Why is it high powered? Because it pays 100%. The higher the yield is, the yield and the high powered are the same. Higher yield means high powered, means high risk, high everything. High powered ETFs give you a lot of income. If you watch my channel, you understand there's no free money, so the high yielders have potential for tons of NAV depletion. The depletion is the same thing as the yield. So what does that tell us? So what that tells me is we want to use as little as possible of the high-powered funds, because what did the high-powered funds bring with them? NAV depletion. Okay, so let's get in the retirement simulator and see exactly how much we have to use of a fund, of a high-powered fund. When a fund pays 100%, you don't need very freaking much, right? I mean, unless you're out there trying to buy a Lambo, and don't do that. All right. So here we go. We have 4 investors, but I didn't do anything on D. So A, B, and C. B is the 60-40 portfolio. It even says 60-40 above it. C it's not YOLO. C is the opposite of YOLO. C is the max factor portfolio. C is a proprietary set of risk and reward factors that I've computed, and I made the best portfolio, the best risk for reward. Anyway, so this is like the top, what's possible if you subscribe to my system or whatever. This one made 35%. The 60-40 only made 25%. This one, you have $8,500 a month, or you earn $284 a day, and you had 35% total return. You had more income by a lot. You had more total return by a lot. My max factor system is going to be subscription only, but I'll have more details to follow on that soon. But sticking to A and B, the normal stuff. B is a 60-40 portfolio. All right. And what my max factor, it's the allocation. I allocate, it's the way it's allocated. That's what you'd be buying for me. All right. So the weightings, in other words, and we will reweight it once a month. It'd be reweighted once a month. All right. So on the 60-40 portfolio, okay. So here's a 60-40, okay. Here is a 60-20 portfolio plus just some stocks. There's some yield max, but some steady stocks like SPY Eyes in there. Here, I'll show you what's in there. We just kind of have we have 60% growth, 20% bonds. And then we have 1% in 20 different really, really stable ones, like 1% in SPY Eye, 1% in USOI, 1% in FEPI, 1% in DEVO, 1% in GLDY, 1% in TLTW, 1% in DIZO, 1% in RYLD, some of the lower paying ones, 1% in JPMO, 1% in JEPQ, 1% in APLI, 1% in QILD, 1% in PBP, which is a put right fund, 1% in put W, which is a put right fund, 1% in MSFO, 1% in FTHI, which is a covered call fund. It's been around since 2016, and 1% in JEPQ, which is a badass fund that doesn't pay very high yield. So anyway, we do something like that, and that's a very nice high yield portfolio. And you compare it to your buddy that doesn't know about high yield. He's only making $48 a day. You're over here making $95 a day. And guess what? You also beat him on total return. His portfolio is only up 25% for the year. You're up 27% for the year. You aren't doing as well as I am at the max factor, of course, but you're doing pretty damn good, right? All right. So, and the important thing is you generate about twice the income. But so let's see. Now, let's say this person, the important thing to understand, the most important concept to get is only if you need the income. This person is retired. Person A is retired. He had $1 million balance at the beginning of last year. Now it's $1.2 million. He's retired. He can't live off $2,800 a month. He needs $3,500 a month. Has to have it. Cannot cut, has to have it. Okay. Well, so let's put a little high-powered fund in there. All those funds were low-powered, right? So this is what the retirement simulator tells us. How much of the high-powered fund we have to put in there, because we know that it's going to bring a lot of depletion. The depletion is the same thing as the yield. It's going to bring the depletion with it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So we want to put as little as possible, but where we still meet our goals. Okay? And when I was a financial planner, I used to sit down with people and do this same thing. And we didn't have high yield funds at the time. So I had to put them in bond funds or REITs. And it was a lot harder to make stuff work out. And in fact, if they didn't have a couple of $1 million already, you usually couldn't. I mean, they were usually probably going to run out of money. If they didn't have at least $1 million when I was in wealth management, you're going to run out of money. There's not enough income in the world at the time. Or you're going to have a pretty large chance to run out of money. Well, now that's not necessarily the case because here we are 26 years later. It's been 26 years since I've been out of the business, or 25 years. And now you can put together an income portfolio that will support you in a decent style on $1 million. Okay, but let's say this person needs 3,500. Okay, well, ULTY hasn't been around for a year. These are just all the funds that have been around for a year. What was the ULTY of last year? Let me ask you guys. It was Misty or Coney or NVIDIA or Tesla, right? What was the fund that pays 100%? You know, the triple digit fund. That's what we, because that's what ULTY is. ULTY is just the triple digit fund that's going to deplete like crazy. So what I'm going to say is we're going to use one of the funds from last year as a proxy because it's going to have about the same amount of depletion, about the same amount of yield. And so it's going to be as close as we could get. So it doesn't really matter which one. We'll just use Coney. I'm not going to pick NVDY, the one that did the best, because I could obviously pick that. It'll make our simulation look great. But Coney had some good times and some bad times. It was kind of back and forth. So I'm going to kind of pick a middle of the road one. So let's just knock our, I really like this SPY-D, but we're going to take that down to 0 and we're going to take Coney up to 1%. Let's just put 1% of our fund in Coney and see if we could see, let's trade Coney for SPY-D and see how our portfolio does. Well, would you look at that? This guy has $3,400 after taxes. It's pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. Now, how much erosion does he have? Oh, nothing. 0.5%. That's fine. We just want that to be under 4. Now, he has more than the guy over here with just your standard 60-40. But still very reasonable. Now, and to be fair, just for comparison purposes, the max factor portfolio has a little bit more erosion because it takes a little bit more risk to get a little bit higher return, but its erosion is still well under 4. The max factor portfolio's erosion is sitting at 1.6 right now, or debt factor. So, very reasonable, especially when you consider you made 35% on your money this year and you paid yourself, you're earning $8,500 a month after taxes. That's a pretty good retirement on $1 million. That's a real good retirement on $1 million. Anyway, so be looking for more max factor content. It's proprietary. I'm not going to give away my formula, but I'll give away the weightings every month. We'll reweight our portfolios together every month if you guys want to. All right, so but let's say the guy needed $3,500. I'm just trying to show you how powerful these high-powered funds are. Let's say the guy needs $4,500. Okay, well, let's give him 2% of Coney, and we'll just now we have to take 1% out of something else. I like JEPQ. FTHI, I don't know that as much about that one. We'll take 1%. We'll take that one away, reallocate, rebalance, whatever you want to call it. And there you have it, $3,900. Okay. But erosion's 0.5%, still way less than the max factor, and the max factor is really low. You just don't want the dead factor to be above 4. 4 is the magic number. Okay, so and it equates to the 4% rule. I didn't make up the 4% rule, but I made the dead factor relate to the 4% rule. So since we only have 0.5% dead and this one has 1.5%, we could probably triple our allocation of Coney if we're trying. So let's go here and let's do 6 in Coney. Now we have to take 4 out of some other spots. So we'll go ahead and we don't need JEPQ if we have Coney. We'll go ahead and nix JEPQ. We'll nix MSFO. We'll nix that one. And we'll nix this one. Is that 4? Let's see. Down the bottom, it says, 100. Okay. So now let's see how much income that is. Well, I'll be damned. That's pretty good. That's more than the max factor dude makes, but it's less. Okay. So no, it's not more than the max factor dude, because there would be a problem. Then the max factor would have to be renamed the min factor. The max factor, what I did is I solved the equation for maximum return, maximum risk with regards to how much, or maximum reward with regards to how much risk you put in your portfolio. I've solved the equation, and I have the perfect weightings. Of course, that was the perfect weightings last month. It doesn't mean they'll be the perfect weightings this month, but you know. All right, so now my computer's making a funny noise. You guys can probably hear that. It's hot and dusty outside, so it probably means it's time to wrap up this video. But anyway, you guys can see the retirement simulator. We're going to have a lot more content on that. We're going to really drill down on how to really allocate these. We're going to stop fucking around. A lot of these channels are just bullshit. I mean, you know, anyway, but we've never fucked around, but we're going to there's no more fucking around for sure. All right. Make sure we've covered all this. All right, what does wealth mean to you? So I mentioned it means wearing shorts every day to me. I mentioned that on live stream with Jay, and it's a little bit more complex than that, but it's also about security. So security means, to me, means that I won't have to die in a public nursing home. If you're wealthy, to me, and I'm not wealthy, but to me, that is someone that is on the wealthy side, as if you can afford to die at home. Security also means to me that my grandkids and their children can afford to go to college or private high school. Nothing's more important than the kid's education. Public education absolutely sucks, and it's fixing to get a lot worse. But it's always sucked. All right. So to review, to me, being wealthy means I can do whatever I want, when I want, where I want, what I want to do. It doesn't mean I have a Lambo in the driveway. That might be the case too, or it might not be, but that's not my definition of wealthy. My definition of wealthy means if I want to be in Las Vegas, I'll pick up the phone, make a reservation, go to Las Vegas. It means I can do whatever I want whenever I want to do it. So that's why I always qualify. I'm not really wealthy. I just can do whatever I want to do. That's my goal. So that's my goal with investing in these funds. It's not about trying to maximize. It's not I mean, it would be, yes, it is tempting to try to make a lot of income and get a lot of nice stuff and lord it over all your friends and stuff. Okay, it's tempting. I'm just joking. That's a terrible, shallow way to live. Don't do that. But really, there's so much more to life than that. There is so much more to life than that. All right, so what does wealth mean to you guys? But anyways, that's the new direction of the station, is actually building wealth, both in the short term with these 1, 2, 3 day trades for income that are fun, keep us busy in retirement, keep us out of trouble, keep us, whatever. But also, and then also planning my allocations to have plenty of growth. That's the reason I want to say this. I want to explain. You have to have plenty of growth if it's important to you that your grandkids and your kids can go to private school or can afford to at least go to college. That's growth is the only way you get there. Okay. So that's my whole goal of these high yield funds is, yeah, they're badass, but we want to use as little of them as possible. Right. All right. Well, guys, I really appreciate y'all for being here. Leave it in the comments. Let me know what wealth means to you. I have different ideas. I have screwed up ideas of wealth. I was raised by, my parents are both hippies, not hippie looking or hippie acting, but they're both super have super broad minds about the world around them and super liberal and super, you can do anything you set your mind to kind of parents. And unfortunately, they've infected me with that kind of thinking, that kind of optimistic thinking. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys. You have a good day.